And I also feel a bit vindicated. You can like, if you guys did not see in today's game, in the third quarter, there is something that happened. So Caitlin Clark hits possibly one of the craziest shots she has hit in her career. Like that is mental on Alicia Gray. Like, that's just like, oh yeah. That's like the Hailey Van Lith shrug shot. So then the next possession, she gets the ball. They're running the break. Like, has to make it a 4-point game and hits Kelsey Mitchell for a score. And what happens now? What happens now is very, very important. Because you've got Dan Dakich out there saying Stephanie White hates Caitlin Clark. And you've got people believing it. Now, that's the biggest problem, is you've got people believing it. So you can see immediately after this what happens. There's a timeout. Caitlin immediately stray for Stephanie White. They end up hugging it out. And not only that, like, if you haven't seen even closer, Steph White's almost crying. Like, Steph White, it is very, very clear. If you see the way they're speaking, they're not, like, the way they talk with each other, the way they interact with each other. Steph White and Caitlin Clark are not dumb enough to not think that they are this close to being split up. One of them is this close to being gone. And Steph White took the job because of Caitlin Clark. A big time reason why Steph White took the job was because of Caitlin Clark. To say otherwise would be crazy. A big reason why she took the job was Caitlin Clark. So you're then talking about it like, you took the job for this one player. And it's all, and now you're in a position where if things don't go well, because I fully believe there are people in the organization that don't want Caitlin Clark there. Absolutely. And I believe there are probably other people involved that don't want Stephanie White there. I don't think it's either of them. The fact is, again, you're seeing Steph White almost crying while hugging Caitlin Clark. Because they're both smart enough to know what's going on around them. Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White want to win together. But they're not dumb. They're not dumb. They know that if Steph knows that if Caitlin's not putting butts in seats and not hitting shots and not doing well, she might be fired. Caitlin knows that if they're in a slump, Caitlin's probably ignoring it mostly, but like, she's smart enough to know, again, if she's in a slump, it could either get Steph White fired or her gone. Because basketball is a game of wins or losses. They clearly like each other. There clearly are massive philosophical differences in how they want to play the game. But I'm going to be real here. They both want to win together. And they know that if things don't change, that's not going to happen. Because they're going to be split up. They're going to be split up if things didn't change. Which is why you can see the reaction here. And like, I genuinely think we need to stop this whole Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White hate each other as people. Or Stephanie White wants Caitlin Clark gone. I think there's a lot of very valid criticism. I think Stephanie White's been naive. I think Stephanie White has been incredibly naive as a coach. I don't think she's the right coach for Caitlin Clark and this Indiana Fever team. I don't think naturally she is. But let's be real. Both Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark are on the hot seat. If nothing was to change in the style of play, into what we were seeing out on the floor, they're going to be split up. Like, if the Indiana Fever are a 500 team this year, the likelihood of Caitlin Clark being traded is probably 50-50. there are issues with Caitlin Clark and the Fever. There are massive issues with Caitlin Clark and the Fever on a personal level. It seems. It feels like there are big issues with people in the Fever and Caitlin. And I would be shocked if there are not people, if there is not lots of people in the Fever organization that want Caitlin gone. I believe that. I fully believe that statement. When people are like, oh, I actually believe what Dan Dakich said. I genuinely believe that there are people in the organization called her a pain in the ass diva. I don't think that person's Stephanie White. And I think it's important to say that these two want to win with each other. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it will. And there's been plenty of times where coaches and players have wanted to win together and it just doesn't work out. Or certain players want to win together and it doesn't work out. But at the same time, there's no like weird talk of sabotage. And look, Caitlin Clark can ignore all this stuff. Stephanie White isn't. Stephanie White's not ignoring all this stuff. Stephanie White's reading everything that's being said. And to be honest, Stephanie White's definitely more in tune about what's going on in the organization than Caitlin. There's a non-zero chance that this reaction where Stephanie White's almost crying is like we may have just saved your spot. There's a non-zero chance it could have been they're not trading you now. You could have been gone. And that's an important thing. We need to stop some reckless narratives. Because do I believe that the league and stuff are I'm not going to say that they are that there's a organized Caitlin Clark hate brigade. What I'm saying is that the league are not stopping it because Caitlin Clark getting hate is what gets clicks. But the league are not stopping it because they're okay with it. The Fever are okay with anything Caitlin Clark hate, as in from the top down. I've said this. Stephanie White is about 3 steps below where I believe. I don't think Herb Simon's probably the biggest fan of this because the Fever aren't making him enough money. The Fever are not making him enough money to be a headache. He's old. And they're not. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I don't know the guy. By the sounds of things, Lynn Dunn might be fucking done with Caitlin. There's definitely a lot of contacts in that organization with Dan Dakich, and for all we know, it could be their equipment manager that hates Caitlin. It could go down that far. But there are definitely people that are just sick of her in the organization. This reaction of the fact that Caitlin made a 3 and Stephanie White's nearly crying. Right after she made a 3, she had hit the shot on Ryan Howard, and she had made the assist, and just kind of turned the game on its head in that one moment. In that one spell of play. Stephanie White's nearly crying. There's more to this than just what happened in that moment. There has to be. There's no way Steph White would be reacting like that. And I have a feeling that all those rumors that the Fever are done with Caitlin and are looking to trade her were true. Based on this reaction, Caitlin's leading the league, or is 5th in the league in scoring. Based on this reaction, this is something bigger than just a good basketball spell. We got to be real here. We got to be real.